Yeah.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, let me just say, got that? Got it. Brilliant. Thank you very much for that. And a warm welcome to everybody on the call, and thank you ever so much for joining, everyone. It's been a while since we have held an AGM within the Central Region, so I think this is a fantastic opportunity to collect a few thoughts after the UPP follow-up event of 10 years on, and decide a new direction for the Central Region. So thank you ever so much for taking the time to join, and in particular thank you to Barry for circulating many of the materials beforehand and drafting them, and Philip for arranging the Zoom call tonight. I'm going to keep to the agenda, but please feel free to jump in whenever you've got a comment. And I intend to delegate the floor to most of you as we move through the agenda. So as such, the second item on the agenda is an election and nomination, or nomination and then election for certain positions. As many of you will know, currently we've got Rhys Edmonds, the Honourable Treasurer of the region, Alex Williams, the Honourable Secretary, and unfortunately we've had a very late apology from Ravi Kumar, who was the chair of the region, with myself as president. As such, I'll work through those positions in that order, but well, sorry, in a reverse order, starting with chairs. Now, I've been made aware from Barry that yourself and Philip would like to stand on a joint basis of co-chairs, and as such, that's the only nomination for chairship that I've had so far. So unless there's any others, I would propose that Barry and Philip, you are our new chairs or co-chairs of the Central Region.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
May I say, I would be delighted to share the chair with Philip, because I think he will bring something from Coventry, in the Coventry area, his experience, which I certainly couldn't give, and I would hope to complement him, and I look forward to working with him. I know Coventry and love Coventry as a city, and it would be a joy to work with Philip in this joint role.
It'll be interesting.
It certainly will be that, Philip. It certainly will be that. In times of change, everything will be interesting. But thank you.
Well, thank you both for putting yourselves forward for this challenge, and over the next 12 months or so to decide where the region goes. I think it's fantastic to have a joint chairship between what I'd probably describe as two of the most active and certainly the most well-structured branches within the Central Region. So I think hopefully we can bring the learnings from all of that and from outside towards making a stronger Central Region. Now, there's various thoughts on the structure and form that the Central Region may take. Now, Barry and Philip, I'd invite your inputs here. As president, I think we should adopt a more flexible approach to the committee, and therefore would propose not to have any more formal positions beyond chairs. But if you see otherwise, I'd invite you to kind of suggest, and I think we would have a structured committee around yourselves as chairs, inviting the branch chairs to participate in Central Region committees and meetings, and then also have external supporters such as Hannah, and then also supporters like Alex, Rhys, and myself around it. Barry, I know you still think there's some value in having structured positions for this transition and this period.
Well, I think it's worth considering for a simple reason, that I'm not sure our headquarters is how far they are down on the road to change, but they have been used to dealing with a region that has had these other positions. I totally agree that we need to be more flexible and have a real team approach using special skills where appropriate. But for our headquarters to support us whilst the headquarters are going through a transition, I just thought in name only, if we need to use the positions of president or treasurer or secretary. I mean, we haven't got a bank account, so the treasurer hasn't got that. But it may help headquarters. But on the other hand, I could be persuaded equally the other way, to go the whole hog and have a flexible project team with Philip and I as chairman or joint chairs of a flexible project team. So what does Philip, I wonder what Philip thinks.
I think that it's useful to, if you're going to have meetings, which I presume we are, I think it's useful to have an agenda for a meeting personally, because otherwise they just tend to degenerate into talking shops and achieve nothing. As far as treasurer, so I think a secretary would be a useful role. But I mean, one of the chairs could do the secretary job, especially if we're recording it. It's not a big deal to be, you don't have to then worry about taking notes. As far as the treasurer goes, at the moment, this regional group's got no money, but that doesn't mean that it can't have money in the future. I've been the treasurer of a group called the Coventry Lord Mayor's Committee for Peace and Reconciliation. I raised £10,000 for them. So, I mean, it can be done. And if you're going to do anything serious, I think a bit of money wouldn't harm. As far as headquarters goes, I mean, it's not relevant really, but I don't think we need to worry about them. Whether they support us or not, whether they take an interest or not, doesn't stop us from doing whatever we want. So, I mean, if we think it's valuable, we can carry on regardless, I think. And if we don't think it's valuable, we just stop. That's very irrelevant to what we're just discussing. So, yeah, I think a secretary certainly would be useful. Maybe, at the moment we don't need a treasurer, but I thought money might be useful at some stage.
Absolutely. I think I completely agree with you, Philip, that a treasurer can be useful when we're getting to that stage, and hopefully we will get to that stage where we would wish to open another bank account, because, like you say, without some funds, then you are very limited in what you can do. I tend to share the same sentiment as well, that we shouldn't worry too much about what headquarters are doing and what they expect. As we know, as you've mentioned, Barry, they are rethinking the whole structure. And so I'd be far more keen for Central Region to provide some new thoughts on how that would be structured, and leading by example in having a different structure and moving away from what I would consider quite a rigid structure that suited yesteryear, and leading the way in how that can work in a new format. So I wouldn't worry too much. I think it's about making sure that the group is fit for purpose. For myself, and I invite the others on the call as well to give their opinion in a moment, I think the advantage of just having chairs with the overall responsibility is then on a periodic basis, you can assign different responsibilities over the next coming months for somebody to perform the role as secretary, which is just slightly more flexible approach, that for a period of time, rather than always relying on that one person, if that one person is busy with other things, we're able to adapt as a committee, and somebody else can take up that responsibility for that period, and decide, I mean, with quite a small group, on an ongoing basis, who's performing those tasks as necessary. I certainly think we all agree that those tasks need to be performed, just whether we need a rigid structure onto who's performing them. But yeah, I'd invite others, Hannah, from your experience, and Alex and Reese from your experience in the Central Region and elsewhere, if you've got any views.
Yeah, I think it goes back to what Barry said early on about having like a flexible sort of project team. I think, like you were saying, with the roles like secretary and that, you know, a lot of these meetings, you know, if we are going to be sort of that sort of core flexible team, they're going to be on Zoom, and we've got the record function. And I think, yeah, you know, over the next 12 months, as we do this sort of repurposing of, you know, what the plan is after 12 months time, like you say, people can do different roles for different projects or for different items. It doesn't have to be fixed. But I think having the two co-chairs as the main focal points is a really positive thing. And I think also as well, having people fixed into sort of, you know, as treasurer, as secretary, as vice president, yeah, it just means that you've got that one person who's the focal point for doing, you know, all the agendas, all the mailing, X, Y, and Z. So yeah, I'm happy with the looser framework with Barry and Philip as the co-chairs.
I agree. I've never totally understood the difference between president and chair in this organization. Perhaps it would make sense if we were a much bigger organization and the chairs would basically run it, and the president would be someone like Sir Adrian Cadbury or someone who would just be supported from outside. And treasurer, I mean, look, I'd be happy to do it if it's a pro forma thing, but we have no bank account. And if we were to set one up, I'd be the worst person to do it because I'm not even in the UK. Secretary would be drawing up the agenda, but there's no reason why. I think Barry drew up the agenda for this meeting, right? And did so very successfully. Yeah, so I do think really chairs should be sufficient, and that doesn't mean I'm pulling out or that I'm not happy to help. And if I'd certainly want to be on the mailing list, and if there are ideas buzzing around, I'd want to be part of it, and I would want to help out. Yeah.
Yeah, but that. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. No, sorry. Go ahead.
So just going back to the bank account briefly, is it the fact that it's just been dormant since Gian last used it, or has it sort of been shut down completely? Sorry, it's just popped into my head.
I can tell you this, yeah. So, all right, I didn't know I was treasurer until Barry started bringing this up, because when we were actually doing stuff, I was secretary. But maybe in the time we had the meeting with Barry, maybe I was made treasurer then. I guess that's what happened. But
I think at the last AGM race, when we were in Birmingham above the Wetherspoons,
I was treasurer then. Yeah, I guess Gian had dropped out before that, and he had control of the account.
Well, Gian is still on the committee, just was on the committee just as a member.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, now he doesn't, as Barry was saying earlier in the introduction, Gian doesn't think Central Region exists, which is true. It has been a bit dormant.
But I assume you don't use the account after a certain number of years. It just dies. And I think that's what's happened anyway.
And I think it's also important to say there was no money, or very little, if any money in there. Hannah, you were going to say something.
Yes, I was just going to, without repeating too much, just agree with the importance of flexibility. Really, a lot of different things can happen, and based on experience, people just don't have the time, or they're traveling, and it's very easy for projects to just drop off or be forgotten. And to have that flexibility there is really important in making sure that projects still carry on despite people having other commitments. And also I quite like the idea of not rushing into opening a new bank account or having new offices or anything like that, just because it seems to me, why take up time that you might not necessarily need to take up and use it for other things that you will use and you will take forward and can be valuable to you right now at present and in the foreseeable future, as opposed to you might potentially need it, but you don't really know what you would use it for at this moment in time. So yeah, that's just based on my experience, what I would do. So yes, fully support what has been said so far.
Will, may I say? Will?
Please do, Barry. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm very happy with what's been proposed. I think it's a great step forward. And I think that I would be happy, if Philip would be happy, to be the official joint chairs. And we have a flexible approach. And on that flexible team, there is Alex and Reese and yourself, Will. And respecting what your roles have been, as long as we can call on you for specific things, I think, because I think that the UNA UK is going to change dramatically over the next 12 months, I think we'll be in a strong position to fit in some way in relation to what's going to happen. So if Philip's happy with the suggestion, I'm happy with the suggestion.
Yeah, I'm happy to go along with the majority, no problem.
Yeah. Okay. As we now can we now? Is that okay, Will?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's fantastic by me, I think.
So for the minutes, whatever, when the recording's done, how would you sum up that from your point of view? Because before I take over, or Philip and I take over your role in this meeting, I just want you to be happy with what's recorded.
Absolutely. So I would surmise it that we as a region have decided to move to a more flexible structure where we're led by a chair or co-chairs in this instance, and then the other tasks performed by a wider group or committee, if we wish to be called a committee, of made up of branch chairs that are not here, or external supporters from outside the region, like Hannah, or other supporters within the region from the branches. And those tasks are decided on a more ad hoc or interim basis as the region needs and as personal flexibilities allow.
I'm happy with that. Are you, Philip?
Yeah, I'm
Brilliant.
happy.
Yeah. Okay.
Super. In which case, we won't bother with the election of those other officers, and I'd like to hand over to Barry and Philip for the rest of the agenda.
Should I kick off, Philip? And
yeah, I think it's a good idea.
Yes. Regarding item 3, the legacy, the approval.
Can't hear you.
And
Sorry, we couldn't hear that. When you face away from your computer, we can't hear you.
Right. You've had a copy of the last minute. And which Alex circulated. First of all, can I have a proposer and seconder for approval of the last minutes? Yeah. So Alex and Will. Alex proposed and Will seconded. I hate this sort of thing, but we've got to go through it. Now, just recognition of Central Region achievements. They can't be over since the last meeting. The main thing that Central Region's been active on is the United for Peace and Prosperity project, and I would just wish to record how much I've enjoyed that being part of that project, and thank everybody who helped and gave comments, and would offer that as the main achievement, although as sub-achievements to that project, there are a range of other things which I can send to whoever does the minutes. Does anybody else want to add anything to that?
No, I don't think there's anything else to add from my side.
Okay. Okay. The vision and values, it's confirmation of the existing vision and values that we've got. Personally, I'm absolutely committed to the UNA vision, as in their corporate plan, and the values on which the UNA is based, and therefore, as a joint chair with Philip, I would base all of my decision making on the vision to contribute towards the vision, and in a way that the values of UNA are respected. And there'll always be an aspiration, because I don't know any region or branch that is perfect in practicing. Can I have a proposal that the Central Region will operate in respect of the existing vision and values of UNA?
Yeah, I would propose that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. Thank you. Anything else you want to say about that subject, vision and values, Philip?
Well, I mean, it might be useful to have some reference to what they are written down somewhere. But I mean, I guess we all know roughly. But I'd be quite interested to have a written summary. I mean, maybe that's on the website. I don't know. But
No, we'll include in the minutes of the recap on the vision and values of UNA. Good suggestion, Philip.
Yeah, and for completeness, I just pulled it up on the website. I don't know whether you wish for me to share my screen, and we can quickly run through it for the completeness.
Okay.
Well,
Very quickly, within minutes.
I won't be speaking to it all, Barry, but can you see this? Yeah. Hopefully you can see that. And I think they call it a mission, but to build movements for systemic transformation at the UN and to advocate for UK action for global cooperation with 4 key values of boldness, accountability, intersectionality, and solidarity. So I think this is a good good page to be referenced in the minutes when we come to draft those.
Okay.
So can I just say, William, if you can put the URL in the chat, thank you very much.
Okay. Any issues that need consideration by Philip and myself initially, that should be in the plan supporting those vision and values? Any what are the big headline issues that individuals would like to see the new Central Region project team have as headlines in the new plans and for the next 12 months?
Could I start?
Yeah.
So my work within the UNA Coventry has been in part as a technical support, and I've created a website for the branch, unacov.uk. In the past, I have tried. I actually created a website which would allow, because I mean, sorry, the background is that I think that branches, we've got a lot of branches doing a lot of work. Wouldn't it be a good idea if they shared their resources and their work and their effort with other branches, so that we don't all have to do all the work? You know, we can share these things. benefit from him and possibly work together on projects. And I think that the Central Regional Group is a possible site, possible forum, a focus for doing that, if that's what we want to do. And it's one of the things I would like to try and achieve. And so what I did, I created a website where people could, so people from branches could join, so the committee from the different branches could join, could share their results, their successes, their projects, and sent this website, a link to the website to UNA UK, and asked them to publicise it. And they, as a result of that, one person from UNA UK joined this website, and nobody else did anything. And I'm not aware that they circulated that, so I abandoned that because it was costing money. It costs about 10 quid a year to run a website, so it was a waste of time and money. So that's one of the things that we do. Another thing that we could do would be to have a central region website where we invite branches to send us their successes. We could even give them separate parts of this website, so to promote them, because I don't think most branches have got their own website. I think the way that UNA headquarters is required, all the work they require you to do to submit a page where you can't add images, you can't add videos, I think it's complete crap. And I think we could provide a hell of a lot better service without a great deal of effort.
Okay,
so I would like to...
Sorry, Phil. I've got your headlines. If we can just get a list of headlines. I've got
All right.
the two headlines that I would offer is, one is the Sustainable Development Goals. We have got to be selective because we can't do them all, but we ought to find ways of supporting the UN's UNA Sustainable Development Goals. And the two goals which are particularly important, I think, now are climate change and building partnerships. So they are goals number 13 and number 17. To go in, these are a list of proposals. So Will and Alex and Reese and also Hannah, any headlines from just one or two lines of what you think should be headlines in our plan for the next 12 months?
No, I think definitely agree with Philip, and I think it's a reasonable sort of task project that we can set ourselves, is sort of getting the local branches together for that exchange of like best practice, sort of what campaigns they've been running, and to exchange ideas. I think that's something that can be done in the next 12 months with a flexible team. So yeah, and I think, because I think we do have, it is still out there somewhere, the UNA Central Region Facebook account. It does exist. I'm sure Ravi still has the login details somewhere. So yeah, so setting up a website and then maybe linking the website through that can start to grow the Facebook page with more local branch activity. This is stuff that, isn't sort of beyond our means as a group of 6.
Alex, those are methods. Any particular subjects?
Definitely the SDGs.
SDGs.
Yeah.
Reese?
I still have the Facebook page. I've just checked.
Can you
Anyone
put it
here?
in the chat? Could you put that in the chat, please?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. We so it's easier to use.
Perhaps whilst you pop it in the chat, Reese, I'll just chime in. I think there's two parts for me in terms of what should be the focus of the central region. First of all, is to reinvigorate itself, and I class putting the website together, and I completely agree with you, Philip, in terms of having the website and being a support mechanism for branches. So I think we need to put effort into regarnering attention and support for the region, and that comes with a well-structured, clear offering to the branches. And then I think second of all, and linked to that is, okay, so what topics should we focus on when we're looking at things? And I think the obvious one is their SDGs, Barry, and I like, I mean, I'm somebody who's very passionate about the climate, so I would say climate change and energy or energy access are two of the most pivotal. And I think partnerships is always a very good one to have for UNA UK and also for the branches, because you can really impact things that way. We saw with the event just a couple of months ago. So I think it's important that we do focus both on restructuring and giving new energy to the region, and also on the tasks, because we've got to find the right way to engage with people beyond the six of us here on the call. It can't just be the six of us talking about the SDGs for it's got to go wider than that. And linked to that should be a review of the Facebook and whether people use Facebook to engage with it.
I actually have a question.
Yeah.
So is the focus here more about reaching out to or engaging more with the different branches within Central Region, or with the members of those branches?
Don't know the answer.
Okay.
It's for me, it's what are we out to achieve? The process by which you achieve it comes second, and it could be either. It could be, the answer to your question could be, in some instances it could be, well, it could be one, or the other instances it could be the other. So it can be as flexible as possible. And for me, there are no boundaries. Regions, wherever the people are, and if they've got something to contribute, then if they're members, that's fine. If they are potential partners, that's equally fine. And a good example is Musalaha. Colin Bryant offered his apologies at 6 o'clock this evening. He was going to come to this meeting tonight, and so it's the goals that we're after, the method. People are the key resource, whether they're in regions, branches, or they could be in Australia for me.
Mhm.
Can I put my point of view? I would say that it's the branch's job to reach out to the public within their branch area. If we try to reach over their heads, I don't think that's going to get their support very strongly. I think that what we should be doing is helping them, helping them to do what they're intended to do in whatever way we can, and also by providing wider publicity for what the branches achieve. Personally, if we were trying to reach out to the public, I think we should do it through branches rather than set up in competition with the branches. I feel very strongly that's the wrong way to go.
I share your view on the method. It's in approaching the branches. If I know of a branch that's involved in either climate change or building partnerships, I would want to say, how can I help you? Not this is how to do it. If they ask for my advice, I'll try and give it. But the nature is a supportive role of branches. And we've all been members of branches, and we welcome the support of people that have got the right experience. But none of the branches will welcome us if we try and suggest what they should be doing.
I think for me there's three words that come to mind, which is support the branches in highlighting the work that they do, amplify their voice with their members and beyond their membership, and then thirdly, connect the branches. We should be a platform that helps branches across the region, and also then beyond the region, but really within the region, work towards a couple of common events or sharing each other's events to widen and therefore amplify the voice of those branches. So it could be that there's a common project between all of the branches that we support them in fulfilling, and that could be with one of those SDGs as well, that you mentioned, Barry. But those are the three words that spring to my mind: to support, amplify, and connect.
Yes. Well, Philip, I'm happy with. We've got enough guidance there, I think, from my perspective, to be able to move on. Are you happy with that?
Yeah, very.
Yeah. But on the next item on the agenda, teams and partnerships, we've dealt with the team. Partnerships with organizations out that are not UNA but are interested in the same things that we're interested in. We have a potential partnership with Masalaha. We could have partnerships within UNA with other regions or branches, one of the reasons why I was pleased that Hannah could come tonight is that I'm really interested in what they're doing in Scotland, and I was interested in perhaps a potential partnership with another region or a branch, or an external organisation that will help us achieve one or more of the Sustainable Development Goals. So would anybody else have a view about partnerships with UNA Central Region as it exists now? Well,
I think partnerships are a fantastic mechanism, and like you say, are a foundation for one of the SDGs. And it actually brought a thought to my mind. Maybe partnerships and fulfilling those becomes a means to supporting multiple SDGs. So you mentioned, Barry, one around the environment. Well, perhaps we pick two over time, not necessarily tonight, and then the partnerships become that mechanism to support those. I think what I would say is partnerships beyond the region and with those outside of UNA are absolutely necessary to reinforce the work. But I'd say the immediate focus should really be about building very strong partnerships and foundations across the region, which I think starts with the branches. So to make sure that we have them invested and committed and seeing the value in Central Region. And then once we've got that foundation, we can build upon that with partnerships outside of UNA and outside of the region.
okay. Anybody else?
I totally agree with William. How about partnerships with headquarters? I mean, I think we need to talk to them. We need to tell them what we're doing and find out where they're going. And I think they need to be a major partner at the moment. As far as Coventry goes, they do absolutely nothing except expect us to put stuff on their website using their copy form, which I must admit I never bothered to do. I haven't got the time to mess around with it.
Yeah. Alex or Reese, do you have a view about partnerships?
No, very happy with what's been said, to be honest. So yeah, rather than sort of waffle, I'll just sort of confirm my agreement with the points that sort of Philip and Will have made. So yeah, very pleased with the ideas. So yeah,
Reese?
Yes, absolutely. I understand now what you're trying to do substantively. Yes, you're trying to form partnerships that bring about SDGs. You're trying to communicate more with members. You're trying to bring branches together. Yeah.
That's a good summary. Hannah, as a potential partner, what does that sound like?
That sounds fantastic. That is, I think, one of the core values or one of the core themes of UNA is partnering with not just other UNAs, but just partnerships in general. Because I find that I think one of the core values of WFUNA, like the World Federation of United Nations Associations, is the SDGs. And a lot of people tend to sort of skip over the 17th SDG, which is partnerships, just because it's very broad and it's sort of a given. But really, it does need to be emphasized. And I really appreciate and I really enjoy this discussion that we're having now, and having a separate agenda item just for teams and partnerships.
Right. It's good.
I mean,
Well,
having mentioned World Federation, I mean, I've visited them and we actually sent a student on one of their courses. I'm just wondering if maybe, I mean, not this year, because I think it's too early, but in future years, maybe we could think about working more closely with them. And UNA UK is a member of them, so it wouldn't cost us anything.
yeah. Well, I think, Will, you've worked in WFUNA, haven't you, Will?
No, I think I went to some of their events when I was in New York at the UN, but I wasn't with WFUNA themselves.
Well,
They're based in Geneva.
yeah.
Yes, but I think that they've got an office in and around the UN in New York as well. I mean, they've got a few offices around the world.
Right, okay.
Well, I've got nothing to add to what people have already said. I think we should move on. We've got some good decisions there about which partnerships, what they should be based on, and how we actually do it. On the subject of communications, I'm really relying on Philip in this respect, although I have tools at the moment which might help in some small way what Philip is doing. But would you like to say what you think should happen with the new setup?
What I propose is that I look at what's available now, so the Facebook page, and I put forward a proposal of having a central region website, and say how it would interact with branches, and maybe another proposal to have to explain how we could have a separate website, or maybe it could be integrated with that, which would allow branches to share projects, because sharing projects and having a website presence is different. One is talking to the public, so that would be your website. The other one is something which is behind the scenes, and committee members from the branches would join. They would upload their projects. I mean, I think perhaps we need to start walking before we don't get to run. Maybe that's the second proposal for the future. And the immediate thing is, what would a website look like? Maybe, and if we get approval on that, then, well, I think there's something else we need to do, which is to ask the branches what they want. It's very easy to go ahead and create something which nobody wants. So I think that once a rough proposal has been sketched out, we then do a marketing exercise, talk to the branches and say, would this be of interest? Because that would gauge, you know, how much partnership might potentially develop. It's typical of the British that they go ahead and develop a product. They can't sell it because nobody actually wants that. They never asked anyone. I think we should try and avoid.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'll put something together.
Yeah. Anybody else want to add to what Philip has, or change what Philip has suggested?
Yeah, I think the website is the right call. I think you can get away with one website, but just have like a dedicated page within it, where it's just like a rolling feed of local branch activity, local branch projects, and they know that they need to upload it to that page, and it gets shared on that page, and it's just like it's sort of one sort of rolling feed, with the most up-to-date ones sort of at the top. But I'd say the other thing with the website as well, which is quite sort of a basic thing to say, is obviously the simpler the better, because obviously, you know, we don't want to turn people off from sort of reading sort of reams and reams of text. So I think it's user friendly and as sort of visually friendly as possible would be good as well.
Okay.
Anyone else?
Quite like the idea of having a website, but also continuing the newsletters and the emails as well. I think would be really good and really helpful.
Right. Okay, move on to about the toolbox, because whatever we decide to do, it's useful to have some tried and tested means of people that have used them before, a set of tools. The most important one to me is a strategic tool called the framework. And the whole project of the 10-year review was based on the framework because it's a sustainable development framework. And you've had a paper on this. It's over 30 years old and has been developed both inside the UN and outside the UN and inside UN projects. So I'm very supportive of that framework because I've used it so many times, and it always, for me, results in sustainable outcomes. But there's other tools, and you've had a list of those. And the toolbox was created at the result of Sir Jeremy Greenstock when he was chair of UNA UK, and Natalie, the previous managing director, asking for one. And I remember Reese and I going to London, doing a sort of presentation in Natalie's office on the toolbox, and they said they would consider it, but they never ever came back to it. But it's been used all the time. I just thought it useful at this new phase that we're going through to put this item on the agenda and to seek your support in continuing the development of an existing toolbox. That's the idea, but it's always worth checking out at a new phase that we're beginning right now.
It jogged a few memories, did it, Reese, when your trip?
I have now recalled visiting UNA. Yeah, UNA UK's office about 10 years ago, maybe more.
Yes.
Yeah.
We went to see with VJ Meta, didn't we? And David Oliver in the afternoon in London.
That one is stuck in my head more,
Yes.
that meeting. But yes, I do also, now you've mentioned it, remember going to the office. Yeah.
I think it's a framework with which you're very familiar with, Barry. So I think it's tried and tested, and it's helpful to conceptualize some of these projects.
For me, Will, it's not just what you've just said, because I agree with what you just said, but you can use portions or parts of any toolbox to satisfy particular requirements of individuals who are attempting something worthwhile. And there's the wide framework for the all-embracing project, but it's sometimes evident that all a branch needs is one particular tool to do something which they need at the time. So it's been strategic and it's been on the spot, like a plumber. If you've got a leak in the toilet.
Yeah, flexible to the needs, I think, is
yes.
how I've always thought about it.
That's fine. Okay, what I was asking for is confirmation of the existing toolbox, and if anybody at any one point in time spots the need for a tool that doesn't exist, then please identify it, because it's in the hands of a person that could use it properly. It can achieve all sorts of things for UNA and also whoever the partner or the branch is. Is that okay? On social responsibility, which is in any community where there's a UNA, whether it's a community in a region, whether it's a community in an area or a town or a village, and they're all shapes and sizes in the Central Region. It's worth knowing of any particular voluntary organization in a local community that might be regarded as a good neighbor if they have any needs. Because UNA is a member of the community in wherever it exists, and not to necessarily identify any now, but my request is this is a very important part of UNA becoming sustainable, because, and for the example that happened just last week of somebody who was at the previous Zoom meeting identifying Musalaha as a person that was doing, an organization that was doing an important job in Israel and Palestine. They sent $150, knowing what they stand for, and what they're trying to do. But they wouldn't have done that without UNA. UNA couldn't have accepted it because we haven't got a bank account. It has been said, but it was worth doing the whole project for somebody who is not a member, wanted to help Israel and Palestine because of that particular event, and to send $150 was absolutely fantastic. Now, it's possible that this could happen and happen again. So my request is that on the social responsibility side in any community, they are neighbors of UNA branches wherever they are. What does that idea sound like?
To me, if I can start, it sounds like a very important idea. I mean, at the moment, we're getting refugees from Ukraine, for instance. I mean, that's a key, I would have thought it's a key thing that the UN is concerned with. The whole situation around that conflict. And yeah, we could certainly offer support to organizations that are trying to help refugees. In fact, what happened last couple of weeks ago, I met a group of girls who were Ukrainian refugees who were manufacturing by hand things to sell, which were then, they're then sending the money back to Ukraine because the soldiers had no exactly the same as Russian soldiers, they had no proper clothes to wear, they didn't have the equipment, and they needed the money to be soldiers. Ukraine hasn't got a lot of money to spare. So, I mean, we could easily give publicity to those kind of people. And, if we find out that communities, we could inform their branches if they're not aware. And I'm sure there's and that's just one small example. I'm sure there's lots of things that we could and probably should be doing along those lines. Definitely, I would have thought.
I'm glad you mentioned Ukraine, because somebody else has already suggested to me, not in this meeting, that we ought to have a project of helping Ukraine refugees in some way. But I'm pleased you mentioned that. Anybody else about the good neighbor concept of United Nations associations?
I think the good neighbor is inherent to the strong partnerships that we identified earlier, and I think that is other regional organisations within the Central Region, and then those further afield. So I mean, I think it's critically important, and we should wish them to see us in a strong and positive light.
Right. Reese or Alex, anything to add to what's been said about the social responsibility in the wider community?
I do, for what it's worth, know a lot of people in the Ukraine in Ukraine, but also in the Ukraine NGO world. Because
that's useful to know. Thank you. Alex,
Agree, definitely agree. As others have said, it's sort of aligned strongly with, what is going to be one of the core STGs that we're going to focus on for the next 12 months with partnerships, and, whether that's Ukraine or other crises going on where there's, sort of local aid work that we can support in the central region somehow through branches and local organizations. I think it's all good stuff and stuff that we should look to support.
Thank you for that. Hannah, you've told me that you've lived in 7 countries, and what the social responsibility in UNA Scotland, how do you approach this aspect of UNA activity?
Like Will said, it's inherent in UNA and what we do and the activities we do. It's actually really interesting because a friend approached me with an idea just yesterday on social influencer responsibility, which is the idea that influencers, given technology nowadays, they have a social responsibility to their followers. So it's just interesting to me that a lot of people are now talking about this idea of social responsibility, especially now in this day and age of technology. You can reach so many people around the globe, and how important it is now to take on that responsibility and to recognize it and to use it for social good reasons.
Right. Thank you for that. Okay, that's a lot of important points there. I'm really pleased to hear them, and because I share them. On the subject of the final point on our agenda before giving Philip a chance to sum up and handing back to Will, what have we learned since the last AGM that we've had, and how can the new Central Region network, whatever it is we are now, what have we learned? And I would invite anybody just to give a headline or two over the last, just looking back since the last AGM, just to share, rather than having any other business, what have we as individuals learned that is you'd like to share? Who would like to go first?
I'd say hopefully not being constrained by typical committee setups, which I'm very hopeful from this AGM will allow us to do a lot more and be a lot more flexible in the goals we set. Because I certainly remember the last AGM and there was none of this discussion or open-mindedness. So in that sense, very positive thoughts on the work we take forward.
Thank you, Alex.
I think from my side, I think the key learnings have been momentum. We have to keep momentum up, because I think once you lose momentum, it's very easy to slip into a status where nothing happens, which, to be frank, is where we landed. And I think the other thing is to be focused. We, especially at this moment in time where we're trying to rejuvenate and revive things, I think we need to be focused on what we do, and not choose to do too much and stretch ourselves too thin before we have that strong foundation I mentioned earlier.
Thanks, Will. Philip, this is your first AGM, Central Region.
Yeah.
No, it isn't. It isn't. You attended in Coventry. We had it in Coventry, didn't we? But,
Well, I wasn't, I mean, that must have been in the old, when the old branch, so there was a previous Coventry branch. I did attend an event in Birmingham, which was a regional event. Probably was an AGM, but I have a very, very faint memory of what happened. It was at Aston University, I think.
That was it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I can't really comment because I haven't been involved since then, and I don't know what's been. Sorry.
okay.
But I think we've learned a lot from this event, this conversation. I think that's been really, really helpful. Thank you all very much.
Hannah, obviously you weren't at our last AGM, but in your I mean, you are standing for the Board of Trustees and the voting procedures in place now. You're part of UNA Scotland, but you're also involved in youth work as well. Over the last 12 months, what have you learned?
That is a very difficult question because immediately I want to be pessimistic, but I always try and be optimistic. So maybe that is something that I've learned in itself, to be optimistic and to remain optimistic and looking forward to the future as opposed to constantly complaining or feeling battered down or feeling demotivated, because that is very, with a lot of youth work, it's very easy to feel that way. And it's always important to remember and to celebrate the small things that happen and to acknowledge the people that are helping out and that are supporting us, supporting youth, I mean. And so that is something that I've learned to remain optimistic.
Right. And you were a pessimist, were you?
Yes. It is very easy to feel that way. I was optimistic going in, and then immediately after recognizing, acknowledging, being in that situation, in that area, it's very easy to feel quite low.
Yes. Well, in my own case, if I was to choose my own job title for in any organization, the one that I would choose would be learner, whether it's organizational learning, whether it's team learning, whether it's individual learning, or whether it's the holistic approach to learning is just, I'm addicted to it. I love it because there's always some way to go. And tonight is part of the milestones because it is a different type of era, environment that we live in, what is happening now. And I believe the United Nations and the United Nations Association become even more important. And I keep on learning. I think that what the UN are doing with regard to Ukraine, for example, I think it deserves support in some way. But it also, on climate change, what it's doing with these climate conferences, these COPs, I think it deserves enormous credit because it's so tough bringing people with opposing views together and driving out any solutions at all. And my respect for the United Nations is just, it's gone up. I've always, I think there are two organizations whose visions are in their title, and United Nations is one vision for me. The other one is Outward Bound, the Outward Bound movement in the UK, which is worldwide. And the vision of the United Nations and how it deploys its people through the agencies and the partnerships it tries to build is just really special. And I keep on learning and relearning that. And I feel more strongly committed as a result of what I've learned in the last year than I've ever been. And we'll find a way in somehow and I don't mind what role, as long as I'm contributing towards the sustainable development goals and the sustainability of communities. And so that's what I've learned. And this last year has been particularly, my learning's accelerated enormously as a result of this review that we've now completed and we've moved on from. I thank you for listening to that. So, Alex, as secretary, if you had a recording of this, could you take the bullet point decisions that have been made and produce an output from this meeting?
Yes, I've also got about 2.5 pages of notes. I sort of tried to sort of get the main decision points under each agenda item covered under those notes. But yeah, I can definitely, with the recording as well, get something substantial out. So it's not an issue.
That's great. Now, so anyone else want to add anything to what's already been said before Philip and I close the meeting? And
Can I ask something?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's to Hannah, really. I mean, I do hope you get elected to the Board of Trustees. I think it would be really useful to have a trustee part of our organisation.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Reese.
Yeah. And how exactly could you, yeah. How exactly could you exploit that partnership to our advantage, was our question.
Well, I hope to, I know there was a lot of talk today about partnering also with UNA UK as opposed to with the branches in Central Region and of course the different other regions. So I do hope to be able to help build up that partnership within UNA UK. I know that there are some issues with UNA UK. So I do hope to be able to take in your feedback and address it from the board perspective, and be able to implement changes, hopefully, fingers crossed that way. And if all else fails, to just keep pushing in from outside and with a little bit of push from the in, as usual.
Okay.
It's worth saying as well, there are 2 vacancies and there are 5 candidates. That's right, aren't they?
Yes.
Now, one of the candidates obviously is Hannah. The other candidate is Ravi. One of the other candidates is Ravi. So the best of all worlds would be if the two successful new board of trustees was Ravi and Hannah. I think that would be a bit of a bonus. Don't you agree? But we have to wait till December the 14th to find out, isn't it?
Yes, I think so. Hopefully they should announce it before then, because I think the 14th is the day of the day the board is meeting.
Yes.
So, but we shall see. I myself don't know. So.
One question under any other business. One question I should have asked. Ravi offered his apologies. What do I say to Ravi? Do I invite him to be a part of the network or whatever we call ourselves, because he was chairman of the previous organization? What do I say to Ravi? Because I feel honor bound to give him some feedback.
My thought here is Ravi is chair of the Birmingham branch, correct, Barry?
Yes.
If I'm right. Yeah.
Yes,
and
he
so
is.
I think he, along with one of the first port of calls that we should make as a Central Region network, is to reach out to all of those branch chairs, informing them of this meeting, its outcomes, and being clear with what we wish to offer to the branches, even if the specifics of that need to come from them after this exercise that Philip mentioned of discussing with them what they would like to see from a central region network, but informing them of this project to revive it and why we think that that's important, and then what they would like to see, and so on. So I think I would reach out to Barry in that context as somebody who is supporting his local branch and leading his local branch along with all of the other branch chairs.
That would be fine. Does anyone want to add or say anything different from that? No. So if that is in the notes, Alex, then I mean, I would be happy to communicate that to him personally, but also send him the minutes in that context.
Yeah, and I think I'd probably just add that we should thank and minute that we thank him as a region for his time as chair and all of his efforts in supporting the region, and also wish him, along with Hannah, the best of luck in the trustee elections.
Right, I think we're. Does anyone else want to add about what they've learned, or is there any organization? We want to recognize what Ravi's done. Is there any organization or people or individuals that it's worth just saying thank you for the help that you've given the branch? But has anyone got any suggestions? Because it's easy to just drop a letter or an email to them, because you never know. Well, because they're important. The people that spring to mind for me is John Howard, the help that he's given us free of charge over the last year, and his work over the years in Israel and Palestine, and Colin Bryan from Musalaha, because they still hope. I know they're about to suggest some ideas on how we might work together. We haven't received them yet, so we can't make any decisions about that. But there may be other people who you can think of that's as a result of this meeting, looking back, saying thank you for your help.
I think I'd support those two. Sorry, Alex. Yeah, I'd fully support thanking those two for their involvement in the UPP review 10 years on. And I think, given that was the only major central region event or activity in the past years, I think that's probably appropriate that we limit it to that.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, what I was going to say was, shall we have a sort of as a loose action point at the end of this meeting? If anyone does come up with sort of any names, from our time working with the central region, that we feed them back to you and Philip. If that sounds like a plan to you, Barry.
That's fine. But that's fine with me. And it may be worthwhile as a final act to say, how long should we leave it before we have another Zoom meeting? Is it going to be 3 months or 6 months, or to review what's happened as a result of the actions we agreed through Zoom? What's the right period of time? We can circulate report by email summaries, but in order to think out loud about some subjects, it might be worth having another Zoom meeting in 3 or 6 months' time, or whatever you think is an appropriate time.
Could I suggest that meeting or series of meetings would be part of a broader plan for where the central region is going. I think we need to plan out what we're going to do. So we've mentioned a website, but we haven't mentioned actually anything else. I think that Barry and I need to sit down together and produce a plan, which then we circulate to
That's
the
a good
committee.
suggestion. I'm with you.
And that would include a schedule of meetings and all the other things that go with it. And then that plan obviously would be flexible as time goes on. We can improve it, but I think we need a project plan for the future of developing this group, this regional.
I'm happy with that. Does that have general support?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a sensible approach, and I think I'd just encourage you both to have those conversations as you're developing that plan with the branch chairs to encourage them to have buy-in, and then once we've got that plan, we can reconvene this group, this network, hopefully with some of those branch chairs involved as well in the group.
Okay. Well, on that happy note, is there anything that anybody else wants to say before we close the meeting?
Yes, I just wanted to say a big thank you to everyone here for having me today and for welcoming me to this meeting. Yes.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And as Will's already said, good luck in the elections. We hope that you're successful.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Philip, from your point of view, is there anything else?
It's been a privilege to attend this, and I'm looking forward to working with you and with the branches and getting and achieving something.
Yeah. Alex, about how long, given your busy schedule, about how long would it be before we could have your briefing notes? So.
Well, I'm actually sort of off for the rest of the week, so I can sort of aim to get them done at the latest by the end of the week. So
that would be great, because I mean we don't need to wait to act, but it's useful to have that list, to have a shopping list.
Yeah.
So Alex, I'm travelling back to England tomorrow, so I won't be able to do anything. But Thursday I can publish this video onto the website, which if you want to, you can then go through and listen to it, or yeah, either the video or the audio. I'm not sure. I could do both.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds like a plan. Either should be fine. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Will, do you want to call the meeting closed as the final act of a president? Oh, you're not a president anymore, are you?
I'm no longer a president, so I'll give you that privilege, Barry and Philip. But I would just thank everybody on my behalf for this evening and all of the various contributions. But I'll let you do the honours now.
Okay. On this happy note, I look forward to a totally new era, and goodness knows what's actually going to happen. But I just think it's going to be exciting. And what pleases me most of all is that we've got legitimate permission to focus on the sustainable development goals and building partnerships in relation to climate change, because with those three hooks to hang our hats on, I think it's going to be a very exciting future. So thank you to everybody, and I call the meeting closed and wish everybody good night.
Thank you, Barry. Thank you, Philip. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. And Hannah, thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you.